It is.
Sorry to interrupt, but we're going to get started. Where's
okay.
Joe Colada broadcasting from today? The cafeteria?
Johnson Cafeteria.
And
Get to
We
see
know
the
that-
world.
we know that Roy is in the middle of a snowstorm somewhere, right?
Right.
So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:01. David's got the flag, so please join me in a pledge. Pledge
To
allegiance
the
to the
flag
Flag.
of the
of the
United
United
States
States
of America,
And to the republic for
To the
which
republic
For the republic
for which it stands,
stands,
one nation, under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and
with
justice for all.
justice for all.
this for all. Kind of like doing a remote pledge with the kids, huh, Dr. Carver?
No, we're in person.
Yeah, I know, but sometimes if
But
you
it is funny because I lift up my computer and all of you just stand up so I see your bellies. just saying.
Did you catch my midriff?
Yep,
You caught my midriff, right?
I sure did. Everybody.
I tilted the screen this time.
Yeah, I lift up my computer and I stand.
you're all wearing our bikinis today, so.
Yeah.
So, public input, I don't see any public. And correspondence is all related to, specific, parts of the meeting. So then we have approval of meeting minutes. So I will make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes, from our last meeting, the regular meeting of January 26, 2021.
I'll second that.
So Roy seconded it. Everybody else was raising their hands. Everybody's had a chance to read it, so I don't think we need to go over anything unless you have anything that needs to be either updated or changed.
There's one clarification, Nancy.
Okay,
I don't know if it matters. Just PCO 106 was duplicated. On
In
page
minutes?
2,
so it was duplicated in the minutes, or was it,
in the meeting minutes.
okay. So Kathy will make a note of that. And it does make it, we wouldn't want to, if it's shown twice in the minutes, Kathy will just make a note of that, and then we'll just update it from there. Got it, Kath? Thanks. Thanks, Ken.
Okay.
So we have to vote. So I guess we'll say we're going to approve the meeting minutes as amended.
Seconded.
Okay, and so Gil seconds that part. So all in favor
Aye.
Aye.
and nobody's opposed, so we're good to go with that. So we'll move into our old business on our school projects. We'll get an update from Ken and Jim on both progress and the schedule.
Okay, for Johnson, we're working on the canopy for the main entrance. Studs and drywall have been installed now, and we're working on the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing rough-in. We did the roofing. It's not 100%, but we've got it watertight. And then we're going to be fabricating the phenolic panels that go on the underside of the canopy and on the sides. And that's it for the canopy update. The curtain sub for the stage curtains is under COVID protocol, so he's out of action for 10 days. We were trying to get him this week, and if not, the 15th or 16th, but that didn't work out. He notified me today. And then for Rockwell, we got the bus canopy glass installed at the back entrance, and we've been trying to get the roofer back. We got the hatch up on the roof yesterday, but we didn't get very far with any of the edge work yet because of the weather. And that's it.
So
Hey, Ken?
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah, me too.
So for Johnson, you were saying the canopy, so I'm assuming you're meaning both the vestibule and then the canopy outside over the top of the entry part of the vestibule that you were working on, correct?
Yes, the main entrance, yes.
Okay, so you have, you said the roofing and all that's watertight. You're doing some framing in there, getting that ready to be finished, getting the roughing in, et cetera. Is there flooring in there that needs to be done? Is that something that, or is that existing? I'm not remembering, because it was covered, I think, the last time I was in there.
There is new tile flooring going inside the vestibule, secure
Okay.
vestibule.
So that'll be done a little further along.
Yes, where the existing vestibule was, there was a patch of, it was supposedly existing terrazzo, but there was no existing terrazzo there. So we did go out to get terrazzo pricing, and right now I have two prices for that, and they were both high, around $17,000 and $20,000. So we're gonna get pricing for some tile there and see what we can do there for the matching ceramic tile.
The canopy.
Okay, and so you're talking about a curtain. Was that the curtain at Johnson or at Rockwell
It's actually the same
Company?
vendor supplier for both schools.
Okay. So then at Johnson, so that stage curtain thing still needs doing, and they're dealing with COVID protocol, so they're not going to be in for another 2 weeks.
Correct.
And the bleachers,
So they've been installed, and now I think there's just going to be talk about doing the electrical by the owner.
right? And then the sewer line.
Yeah, I guess there's a proposal up tonight for auto plumbing. And then we have a proposal for the doing the concrete work and the tile.
So we'll discuss that further during the change order part, Geraldine, yeah.
Yes.
So that's still on schedule though for,
This
Friday
weekend.
night.
This weekend.
yeah,
That's
coming up,
this
so
weekend, yeah.
starting Friday after, so school is all day Friday, or does it get out part day, or how's?
No, all day.
All
But we
day,
have
and then so they have Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, Monday,
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So that they have the students have a 4-day weekend this weekend.
Okay. So then school comes back Wednesday,
Right.
correct? Okay.
So can I ask about Johnson?
Yeah,
So
so if
is-
anybody has other questions about Johnson, please let's do that, and then we'll move to Rockwell.
So the canopy that extends out from the front vestibule, I thought it looped around the bus loop too. Am I wrong? It does not.
No, that was the alternate part.
Okay, all right. And when is that going to be done?
We have it scheduled for the end of February, but it's gonna, depend on the panels. We're meeting with them first thing tomorrow to see how fast he can get his panels done.
So why weren't they already ordered?
It's kind of a field dimensions. He has to take field dimensions for this type of panel.
Okay.
He has the material.
And I don't know if this is you, Ken or Geraldine. I just wanted to follow up from the meeting the Thursday's meeting, which I could not attend. The electronics in the gym, who and when are we going to get trained to do that?
So
And
the
use them.
sound system is the owner's vendor ESC, and I reached out to them, but I don't have an answer on that yet. I don't even have an answer on whether it's actually complete and they just need to turn it over to you, or whether there's still work going on that. So I thought I would hear back from them on a number of issues today, and haven't yet, but we're we're pushing them to get whatever they have to do finished next Monday and Tuesday. So if it's just a matter of training on the systems, we'll schedule that. If there's still work that has to go on, we're hoping that they finish that up first of next week.
So are they gonna come out on site and do that training?
Well,
They're just not good trainers on Zoom.
okay.
It is not effective. You can ask any of my administrators.
Yeah, I think that this is not a large group, right?
No,
About, you know,
but the principal, the
staff, the custodian,
right, and
Yeah.
the PE teacher and
Yeah.
but what we've confirmed, Geraldine, that the electricity, everything is all actually hooked up.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, yes. And so if you prefer an in-person training, we'll have an in-person
Well,
training.
Bob, what do you think?
Well, I think they should perform a function check in front of
Right.
us first to show that it's working, and then move right into the training.
Yeah, because I don't think it'll be that intense, and it's a big space that we could spread out. But I just know that they've done the training on the security systems, Bob, right? It's not gone well.
Yeah, yeah, that was tough. It was tough to sit through.
Okay.
Okay, so then, does anybody else have anything on Johnson that they either have questions or observations on?
Well, Nancy, I just want to let you know that tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to meet Otto. He wants to come over and measure out where he can plug in the saw and set it up. And then this way here, when he comes Friday night or Saturday morning, that's another thing he's going to tell me tomorrow. He can just jump right in. He doesn't have to sit there and he'll set stuff up, you know. So if anybody wants to get some more information, Otto's going to be there tomorrow at 9.
Yeah, Bob, if we could just coordinate that with Ted, I'd want to make sure Ted's there just from the standpoint of passing that baton of filling the concrete, how we're going to leave it if we have to for school, you know, as far as safing that area off. So
Okay, Jim.
I'll make sure we got somebody there for you.
Yeah, I just found out about an hour ago.
Okay.
Okay, good.
I still have a question about this whole thing. We're paying it out of the project, right? We're paying Otto out of the project.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Geraldine, I've always, anytime you have a project like this, anything you do has to be prevailing wage. I find it hard to believe that we're going to be able to do this. And if the state audits it and they pick it up, we're going to get penalized. Think about it. It's a state funded job that requires prevailing wage.
Is it eligible?
It's not eligible for reimbursement.
Right,
Then that state part, it's not a state project.
Right.
So-
right.
And as far as prevailing wage goes, the amount is not over isn't it $100,000 threshold?
Right.
Ungiven part?
Yeah, it's actually less than that, but yeah, it's primarily the fact that essentially the town is paying for this work out of
Okay.
referendum money, but it's not going to be reimbursable by the state just by the nature of what we're doing. And
A
because-
year down the road, they're going to audit this, right? A year and a half, they're going to audit. They're going to go through with a fine tooth comb. They do on every job. So I find it a little hard to believe that we could use funding for the project and not pay prevailing wage. So,
Well, I think when we put it in, I only know John because I do it.
right.
Terry and Geraldine prepare it and then I put it in the computer. We put it in, Geraldine, correct, as an ineligible expense.
We will, and that's how it'll show up on the change order documentation
Okay.
that goes to the state.
Right,
And that's because if we tried to get reimbursement for it, the first thing they looked at would they be trying to figure out, is this really construction work or is this maintenance work? And
Right.
secondly, they'd want to know, they'd probably disallow it because it's essentially rework. We're going back into finished areas to do work. So they're gonna kick it back anyways. And so then we look to, when it's outside of the state funding, then we look to whether the town has a requirement to require contractors to use prevailing wages, and Bethel does not on this type of work. So we're sort of treating it like any other maintenance item that the district has. They hire their regular plumber, they hire their regular electrician. Essentially, we're going to do the same thing on the power for the bleachers that was just brought up. The bleachers were originally specified as manually operated. By chance and by good luck, the supplier gave us a motorized operation, but there was no provision for power for those bleachers in the base contract. And because it's so difficult getting Ferguson to do additional work at this point, we're just going to go right. Bob's going to make arrangements with an electrician that you use regularly for other maintenance issues on the project. Again, and nothing associated with the bleachers is reimbursable at the state level. They just don't. Bleachers are not allowed. So again, it's a total town cost, and then we're just going to add to it by a few $1,000s for the electrical work to support the bleachers. So these two items are a little bit comparable.
Okay.
Okay, well, thanks for checking, John, because we want to make sure we cover all our bases. So anything else on Johnson? I know we'll get back into the whole sewer part a little later, but any other questions on anything we haven't touched on with Johnson? And I'm assuming punch list items are ongoing.
Yes.
They finally painted the wall, Ken. It only took a year, but it's done. In fact, I got a picture of it today.
Hey,
It's not
I
pink
hope-
anymore. It's not pink anymore, Geraldine.
I hope it's on your
I was just gonna say
screensaver.
pink.
I hope it's on your screensaver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you should have it as your background, your virtual.
Yeah.
You appreciate it
Um,
more when you wait longer.
Yeah, it only took a year. Yeah, I'm exaggerating.
Then on to Rockwell. So Ken, you mentioned the roof, and obviously you said that, I thought you said in the OAC meeting that they had about 2 weeks worth of stuff to do. Yet
They
they're,
do,
yeah, so
yes.
but they're delayed completely again because of the snow, or is there anything they can do?
Yesterday, they delivered the hatch and for the hatch installation, so there's a little bit that they can do, but not a real lot. I mean, I'll check back with them in the morning, and they should be okay tomorrow to continue.
Well, can the snowflakes for Thursday and Friday have left the forecast?
They
So
have.
let's
Okay.
hope that they can be back on track with, especially with the upcoming long President's Weekend, and maybe we can wrap a lot of this up.
I hope,
So Ken, do they have to wait? Do they have to clear the roof to be able to get work done? Are they going to do that? Are they waiting for everything to melt and then they're going to come back and work? What's the situation?
they could do their edge work without having to do too much clearing.
Mhm.
There's not a real lot. The only thing that they'd have to do for clearing, would be some of the flashing work, but they can clear the snow off the edges for the flashing, and they'll probably just wait for a melt down for the walk pads. That's the last thing they do.
Okay, and is the roof definitely, I mean, obviously we've had rain and such too, and we've had other snowstorms. The roof's watertight enough where it's not going to leak when we start having the melt.
It shouldn't. It's like, we've been good so far.
Okay. The second floor bathrooms, I know you got that finished, but you can't use them yet because the concrete has to be cured. I read that in Geraldine's report. And I think you talked about it at the OAC meeting too.
Yes.
I just have a question about that, Nancy. A month? Like, that seems like a long time.
Concrete usually takes 28 days.
28 days.
Yeah, you gotta wait for it to dry. If you don't wait long enough and you start putting stuff on top of it and sealing it, you'll be dealing with problems later.
I'm like, that's fine, John. I just wish, because I was told when this project started that we would have it in a week. And so I think there was very poor communication to the school. And that may be 100, I believe you, 100% true, but then you shouldn't have told us something completely different.
Right. I think, Ken, if you knew you were pouring concrete and you know, everybody knows concrete's a 28-day cure, shouldn't have been promised back unless there was going to be put on it and toilets set temporarily in place.
Actually,
didn't know.
it reaches 95% of its strength in 7 days. So
Correct.
28 days, this is being dictated by the structural engineer. This isn't being dictated by us. And as far as I'm concerned, that's unreasonable, but that's for him to decide. He's the one that's been asked to give a sign off. But the idea that you have to wait 28 days before anybody steps foot on that is not correct.
And is it before anybody steps foot on it, or is it before you put the finished floor back on, the tile, et cetera?
It's all finished.
Right. It is.
All finished. Okay.
Yep.
So, and is that anything that comes, you said structural engineer, but is anything that comes out of testing with STL, or do they, is that not part of it?
You're less than 50 yards there, so you would not have typically tested that.
Okay.
This is strictly a judgment call by the engineer. It's his license, it's his responsibility. I understand that, but there should be a little bit of a rational discussion.
So is it still open for discussion, or is it?
No, I mean, listen, I was just trying to make a point. Like, I wish it had been communicated better.
So
For
I
whoever-
called the principal at Rockwell, explained her options to her. And she felt that, using some stalls versus
Yeah.
not all this, she didn't even want to go there. So
Yeah. The
she
kids
is going to
wouldn't
work
listen.
it with the 28 days unless Joe Colada tells us that we can shave any time off of this. That's what we're going to adhere to. But, Joe, if there's a week or any amount of time we can shave off it, they would love to be able to have those accessible.
I could ask the structural engineer again, but he was pretty set at the 28 days. But
And if in the end that was what we have to do, but he understands they're 7-year-old boys, right?
Mhm.
And girls, because we can't use
Right.
the girls' room either.
So they don't weigh a lot.
Right.
And listen, at the end of the day, if we have to do it because it's the right thing, that's fine. We'll live with it. I guess I wish it had been communicated that way.
Can we get kind of a Hoyer lift and sort of lift them, bring them across?
No,
and
they
put
just
them on the
probably
foot? Yeah. I
have
know.
funds with that.
So basically, the bathroom's all put together. The stalls are,
Yeah,
partitions are in place, the toilets are in place, everything's fine.
right.
Just
We
have,
just can't use it.
Just can't use them.
we can just stand around and like pray over them or something.
And Nancy, they're clean. They're
They're
clean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there
So
was some
Joe, if
question.
you could recheck, because even if he gives us a week, any amount would help, because she's got a whole bunch of little kids on that second floor and it would just make life a lot easier, but we're not going to break any rules.
Right. Understood. I will call him first thing in the morning.
Hey, anything else there? Okay. And so that you talked about the curtains too, that's at the same situation at Rockwell with the vendor being unable to come back for a couple of weeks.
Yes.
And that's not a big deal there, right? It's more like creating tiebacks or something like that.
Well, they're not even hung.
Oh, they're not hung. Okay.
Right.
I
No,
thought
did they paint that extension in the Johnson gym yet? That would have also made me happy.
Not yet. Not yet. They're scheduled to take the plastic down. I don't know if they got to it today, but as soon as they take the plastic down, he's coming in.
And do they have to like rent a lift to do that, or get a lift?
I think they've got one in there that they can use for that.
Hmm.
There's a little man left.
the gym, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Ken,
Yes.
I have a question about the Rockwell gym. Will someone explain to me how we're going to clean that concrete? Is there anything special that needs to get done with that?
Yeah, the poured floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's maintenance instructions. I
Okay.
can make sure you've got a copy of those.
Yeah, please do. Yeah. It came out really nice. That floor came out really nice.
Both gyms are beautiful.
Okay, anything else for Rockwell? Anybody has questions
Yeah.
on?
Nancy, did you get Tom Galliford's email about a sprinkler?
No,
Well, let me give you a little backstory. About a week and a half ago, I brought my sprinkler company in to get an idea of what we have in both schools because I need to put that on the next year's service contract. And they noticed a check valve at Rockwell that may be needing replacement or repositioning. So Tom asked for some photographs today. I took the photographs for him and he sent an email out. I don't know if he sent it to Ken or is it just me? But
We did.
Yeah, I saw it, so, yeah.
okay.
Send it
So
around.
I guess there's some questions about how it was installed.
is it the positioning of it or is it?
Yeah, it's a check valve and it may be vertical, it should be horizontal. I don't know. You got to read Tom's email. He goes into painful detail.
Yep, we have the owner of the company coming out to take a look at it.
Oh, good, Ken. All right,
Hopefully they can fix it Monday or Tuesday, I hope.
Okay, good. Anything else on Rock? I know everything else for me, for both Rockwell and Johnson's all exterior site work stuff, which isn't happening until most of the snow goes away and it gets a little warmer.
well, I actually have one more question for Ken. Hey,
Yeah,
Ken,
Yep.
did you get elevator certificates from the state for the 2 elevators?
I did not.
Okay. 'Cause
Sometimes
I'm
they
gonna-
get them, Bob, and they just go put them right in the certificate holder.
No, I didn't see them there. That's why I was
They're not
asking.
there, okay.
All right, because at some point, I'm gonna be getting the new year one coming in for the rest of the schools.
Okay, I'll check on that.
Anything else anybody has?
Well, I just wanted a little understanding on how this is going to work this spring. So are we going to be a wrap by the end of February and then everyone's going to go away for a couple of months and then be back on site? Because I think the town will probably call me about the police station, yada, yada, yada. So, so tell me exactly the logistics of Ken and Jim and Geraldine, how this exactly is going to work. You know, because we feel like it's the fourth quarter. We want everybody wrapped up by the end of February. And then we kind of want to know, when does everybody come back to do the site work?
So we would have to wait probably to mid-March before we could get started again on the site work portion. I know Rizzo's planning to leave the police station next week. And I was gonna talk to Geraldine about what, you know, her needs are with her vendors here and everything. And it's pretty much it. We'll be still completing the work that we have to finish, but we won't be operating out of the police department.
So when you come back to oversee the final exterior grounds work that needs to be done in the spring, you're not going to be back in the police station.
No,
Okay, all right, that's very helpful. So
So to follow up, will Ted still be around to oversee the site work?
The plan is that he'll still be involved then, yes, overseeing the site work.
Okay.
okay,
So once the wrap up of, I mean, if there's obvious punch work kind of things going on, will Ted or someone be on site supervising that, or how does that work?
Yes, they'd still be on site. You know, if we have a few concerns with the canopy for the end of February, obviously, that flooring with the terrazzo. But if all of that wraps up at the end of February, there may be some ongoing punch list. Joe's got some areas that we have to walk with him newly turned over. So yes, there would be, whenever there's somebody on site, unless, Nancy, it's a technician coming out like an ESC for, a commissioning or something like that, we wouldn't have somebody standing there with him. But if there's physical work going on, we're gonna have supervision on it.
Jim, is Matt going to continue to oversee the punch list?
Yes, it's a combination of him and Ted at this point. It's mostly Ted is the point person for all the subs on that. Matt's essentially just getting you the updates and information. So he'll continue to do that.
And is either you or Ken have continuity through to the end, Jim?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so we can still pick up the phone and reach either of you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, and then I just thought when someone just mentioned the terrazzo floors, I was thinking about, I just forgot, but with the floors that needed to be resealed, did that happen, or are we still working on what's going to happen with those, or?
At Johnson?
If you're
Yeah.
talking about the kitchen area, the receiving area, Nancy, at the kitchen at
No,
Johnson?
not the receiving area, the tile that had been sealed and then it was wearing really.
Yeah, it's all been fixed.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna see how that lasts. Hopefully it'll last.
Right. It's been okay, right, Bob?
Good. And then as far as the old police station, Geraldine, do you have stuff there or anything that you need to kind of get out of there? Or, because I know sometimes you would meet there or have some documents there or whatever.
Yeah, we have some stuff. I think the biggest issue with what's at the police station is we have hard copies of all of the certified payroll. Now, we'll have to talk about whether the town wants to take all that paperwork or whether they just want, we also have electronic copies. So we'll have to make a decision on how to pass over some of that paperwork. But everything other than that, I do think that I still have a monitor or something in that room, but we'll clear out our office this week so that it's ready. It's not that.
Just out of curiosity, does the town know that you're vacating the building?
I don't think so. So I'm gonna call the town tomorrow and we'll coordinate. I mean, I'm sure they want to smooth. And so, I mean, a week is fine, but if it goes to the end of February, I'm sure it's not going to be an issue. So, but let me make sure we get the right people, both to Geraldine and to Jim and Ken in terms of wrapping up and vacating, and Geraldine, if you needed to keep anything there for a bit, continuing access, let's at least put you in touch with the right people, and then you can work out what your needs are.
Yeah.
Ken, do we have
I
any?
have a question.
Well, just quick, Bob. Ken, do we have anything left in that garage?
That's the question.
Yeah, there's boxes, and if you're gonna throw them out, there's still a little dumpster in the back that
Okay.
the stuff could just go in there and you can get rid of it. And then I know that ESC has a room down the hall from the copier. I don't know how much stuff they have left in their room, but I'm not sure about them.
Just out of curiosity, Ken, do you know which school still has stuff there?
Oof.
All right.
No, yeah, there's two small rooms that have
I
furniture.
know.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, like tables and things like that. They're both stuff, but I'm not sure what schools they belong to.
Bob, we gotta go look at that.
So
Yeah.
Christine, you want me to arrange a walkthrough with the right person from the town so that we coordinate if stuff can stay, go, whatever?
Yeah, I mean, if they haven't used it in a year, I don't know. But the question is yeah, too, is it worth keeping or donating or, figuring out? Go ahead, Bob.
Terry, are you talking about where Ken is or where the garage is?
I'm talking the whole building. I mean, I
Oh,
don't
okay.
know. I mean, we got to get somebody, I'll find out from Matt or Kozlowski who exactly. is going to go down, walk through, determine what can stay longer, what's got to go, that kind of thing. And then we'll coordinate what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
the crap in the garage, we
It's
should
ours.
just take up is ours.
They're not going to rush us out of there. The building's
Yeah.
not being sold.
Yeah.
And they'd prefer that it be used rather than vacant. Vacant becomes a different kind of insurance issue. So let's work it out with the town as to, wrapping it up and figuring out what needs to be done.
Because
They're
you
gonna
have to find
they're
out,
gonna have to maintain the environmentals there.
right, so if you've got stuff inside the building and it needs to be probably kept at some kind of constant temperature, so it doesn't get all moldy or whatever it is, that's different than if you have stuff in the Sally port, so, and which doesn't, wouldn't have to be maintained at a constant temperature. If you could put, you guys have to figure out what needs to be stored
Yeah.
for a month. If you had to store something for a month till you figured out what to do with it.
Well, that building has zero insulation. Ken will tell you that. So the heat's gonna have to stay on in that building.
Well, they're
At least-
going to have to keep it on to some extent anyway. And,
Unless they go in
and I mean, it's February.
Yeah.
And it's New England, so we'll be realistic, we'll use common sense, and we'll figure out what needs to be done.
Yep. So you guys will figure all that out. And I think like Terry says, you've got a little time. It's not like they're booting you out and gonna be tossing everything in a dumpster tomorrow.
Right.
So, just be in touch with, Rizzo folks. If they've got stuff there, they need to get out, be in touch with Geraldine if she's got stuff, and you guys figure out what you need to do with your stuff and how long a period of time you have for it. And if there's stuff in the parking lot too, you got to deal with that.
Right. I mean, the town has a much bigger discussion to have now that
Right.
we're wrapping
That's
up.
whole different that we're not even going to be involved with that until
Correct. We'll
Unless
give it to the building committee to look at.
they assign it to us someday that's different, but right now, no. We'll decline. So, but that's a good point, Terry. Thanks for bringing it up. You guys will figure it all out, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So anything else specific?
I'll talk to Public Works just because we maintain the buildings. So I'll mention it to him tomorrow that you're planning on being out within a week or so. Okay.
Partially out, Kathy.
Yes, but I need for the temperature and all that good stuff.
Right. Not 100% out by any means.
I got it.
Thanks, Kathy.
You're welcome.
So anything else on the schools, Rockwell or Johnson? Because the only thing I have is the schedule, Ken and Jim. And are we sticking to the schedule or does it get pushed back any, pushed up any?
Right now, we're sticking to it, and we're trying to meet it with the canopy. We just had the flooring issue and making sure that the panels are all get fabricated in time.
Okay, anything else from anyone else? Okay, do we have, Gerald, anything on FF&E technology or playgrounds?
The furniture is complete and technology, as I said, I'm trying to wrap up things with ESC on both the security and the AV side. So we're expecting them to get some work done Monday and Tuesday. And then we will obviously try to push them to finish things up, in line with the rest of the construction being finished. So I have some follow-up there. On the playground, the parts are being delivered tomorrow, so Altiplay expects to be out there early next week. I did remind them that there's nobody on, that staff and kids aren't on site Monday, Tuesday, so if they could schedule for early next week, which is what they're looking at, that would be ideal. But I need him to let me know, and also Bob, because I think they're doing some work at Barry as well at the same time. Or did that work happen?
No,
earlier?
no, it's scheduled the same time. He said he wanted to do both the same time.
Exactly. So they said early next week. So as soon as we have a date, we'll share that with everybody. And then that should be complete. That's the update. We're just wrapping things up.
So did, for Perkins Eastman finish their walkthrough with the furniture stuff that they had? Wasn't that going to happen sometime?
Yes, yeah, Lindsay went out, I think it was Wednesday. I just got the reports from her today. So I'll be issuing those tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Carolyn, you probably already took care of this or no. I just remembered it when you were reporting. Allison said there was supposed to be a little round table in her office. Did she email you?
No, that didn't, so that's on an invoice that we're gonna approve tonight. I guess I need to follow up and make sure that it actually got someplace. If she doesn't have it, who
She
has
doesn't
it?
have
Yeah.
it. She told me she
Okay.
was going to email you, but
Yeah,
she might have forgotten.
yes, because we had to add that extra table. So yes, I will follow up on that.
Okay.
Is it possible it's somewhere else in the building? And
I don't think so.
I
okay,
don't know, no, because that was so far after all of the other furniture.
Right.
It just probably is not complete. And I'll just readjust my notes here. that the
It's also
furniture's-
like pretty distinctly different than a lot of the other tables.
Yeah, like a conference table.
Right.
So,
all right. So I know I've said before, I don't want to hash through every single little item of construction during our meetings because it takes forever. But at the same time, you know, we as a commission don't want to be hit with anything that we're unaware of, et cetera. So it's good to kind of know the ongoing progress as we're moving towards the end of the project. So there were a lot of things that were on my mind to ask about, and glad people brought a few other things up. And I think we should be good with all that, though if you do think of something a little later on, you can always ask. So I think we're good with all FF&E technology playground stuff, although I gotta say, I love seeing all the different pictures that get posted of the kids playing in the playground. They look like they're having a blast. So budget.
Nancy,
Yes.
I'd like to say, we've all appreciated you being on for the last month and a half or whatever on the Thursday meetings. I think it's really been a good connection between the weekly owner meetings and your committee meetings. And thank you for taking the time every week and being part of both.
Well, sure, I've had more flexibility with my Thursdays, so I'm glad I have been doing it. So I'll continue as long as I can, as much as I can. So budget.
so budget. So,
Yay.
so tracking budgets at Johnson. And yes, at Johnson. So again, we are tracking we're 88% complete on the entire project and 92% complete on construction at this point. We are still maintaining a $1,775,000 contingency at Johnson. And at Rockwell, similar progress. We are invoiced to about 93% of the overall project at Rockwell and 95% on the construction side alone. And the current contingency at Rockwell is a negative 400,000. So you can see where we are at in combination, which is the cash flow analysis at this point indicates that we will have, considering all of the outstanding potential liabilities, if they all come to fruition, we're still in excess of $800,000 at the end of the project between the two buildings under budget. So as this spreadsheet indicates, we're going to look at some very minor PCOs today, recommending approval on. Still have a number of outstanding PCOs that we're examining. And there is still the question of the feeder negotiations at each school. And then again, some undefined PCOs, additional fee requests, and some small amounts in the budget that we're not sure we're actually going to expend, but we're going to leave them in their line items for now. So bottom line is what we're looking at the end of January is, a total retainage remaining of about contingency remaining of about 1.37 million, but expecting these additional costs, we're looking at the end of the project ending up about $820 under budget in combination.
So you're saying that that this includes some of the upcoming change orders plus things, well, including like the sewer line and things like that.
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And then we still have some outstanding things that we don't have costs on, but you took like the washer dryers, but you kind of took a stab at it.
Correct. We've been carrying some of these numbers, knowing that this additional work is required. We just have not seen the real costs yet. These numbers, in this upper portion, reflect actual PCOs that we have in hand, whether they're going to be the final number or not, because we're still negotiating some of them. We do include the higher amounts in the calculation to just see what the outside exposure is.
Okay.
But it's pretty much tracking the way it has been
Yep.
all along recently.
Many questions on the budget?
Either one of them?
No.
Nancy,
Yep.
I would like to maybe keep a placeholder for that scissor lift. I still don't have a quote yet. I'll push that vendor the next day or two. I'd like to at least make sure that, the committee at least sees that, and if you approve it.
So that's something you need to do something, or something that's a permanent.
Permanent.
Okay. So do you have costs on that? And
Unfortunately, I don't. The vendor is kind of dragging their feet and getting me a price, but I'll push it tomorrow.
okay, so once you have something, you'll have to let Geraldine know to.
Yeah,
Correct.
we'll include it in the reporting and everything.
Correct. Thank you.
Is that something that you can move from school to school, obviously?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay. So anything else on budget? Carolyn, I appreciate the combined budget thing that you put together, because that's really helpful to be able to see that. And to see.
Yeah, we always want to temper that when you see that $400,000 in the hole on Rockwell, we just want to temper that with the fact that there is money remaining in the town's total fund.
Right.
For these projects.
And just to quickly say, the Public Site and Building Commission is required to give an update on ongoing projects to the Board of Selectmen. I think it says quarterly in the charter or something like that. I was a little bit behind, but I did one at the last Board of Selectmen meeting last week, and usually I do some bullets on kind of where we are, and reported that we are doing well so far with the budget. They were glad to hear that. And explain too, one of my bullets was very specifically what Dr. Carver and Geraldine have shared with us about going back to the state to get that additional 900,000 plus moved so that it can be reimbursable because of all the abatement, et cetera. So they were pleased to hear that too. And I did have to tell them we're a little behind schedule, but things are moving along, and that we're, scheduled for completion basically inside the schools by March and site work by spring, or by mid-spring, I would say. So I know change orders is next on the little bullet thing, but I'm just going to say with the boiler room project, unless anybody else has anything, and I know John Mente's not on tonight. He's somewhere doing some work thing. And I have the piece of document thing that we were supposed to have signed by Matt Knickerbocker on town letterhead. And I believe the original of that has to be kept where we're going to keep the files. They call them the files. And I had a whole back and forth with Bob Germanaro about whatever we do with that, that boiler room and the reports that have to be done regularly and the work and et cetera, all of that has to be kept somewhere. And I'm sure a lot of it can be done electronically, but for now we may want to keep a hard file of hard copies. So I'm going to have to just check with Weston and Sampson to find out, do they need a copy of it? You know, should it be with the files, and make sure that, you know, once all of that's put together in a file, Bob has a place to keep it, and it's all stored in the same place.
Well, we currently store other items at the central office, so it'll be safe with us.
Yeah, well, and I think it seems to be the most obvious place to go looking for it. I think it's basically if the EPA ever wants to show up and demand to look at the files, they know where to go.
Right.
So that's why when I was asking you about, can we put, you know, you and or facilities manager and the address and the location and all that, just to make sure, like in 10 years, if you're retired to sunny Florida and somebody else is
Sounds good.
and the EPA shows up, then they know where to look for it.
Right.
So,
Right.
not that they ever do show up, but you have to be ready.
Well, they do.
Do they? Okay. That's good to know.
So related to that, all of the testing and monitoring reports produced by Enviromed for both schools on the project, as well as all the documentation that Malona McBroom put together pre-project for abatement, is all stored on this shared drive. But I think that all of that should at some point soon be downloaded to someplace, you know, at the central office, just so that you have that electronic record of everything that was done to abate both buildings. I mean, I don't know how long one will maintain this shared drive. I guess that's up to Terry and Christine, I'm sure, you know, how long you're going to maintain all this documentation, but I would just suggest that that might be one part of this shared drive that you might want to grab all that documentation and download to someplace else on a server. So
And
that you
that's fine, Geraldine. We could just get together one day and you could show me exactly where it is and what you think needs to be downloaded. But
Yeah.
the truth of the matter is, this shared drive is the district theoretically could keep as long as they have Google, right? And
Sure. Oh, absolutely. And I would probably suggest that because there's good, interesting documentation in a lot of the folders on the shared drive. I was just thinking if we're designating an area just for that documentation for the Rockwell boiler room, we might as well keep all of the abatement information together someplace.
Mhm.
Was not just my thought. In case somebody comes looking for it. You know.
okay.
So that made me think too about, Geraldine, you said earlier about the certified payroll, which is stacks and stacks of paper. Is that anything that needs to be kept for the state when you start going for finishing up the reimbursement stuff or whatever? Or is that electronic, or are the electronic copies of that all you need?
So the electronic copies of that are fine. In my mind, the only reason we keep requesting hard copies is to make it easy for examination in the process of the project, because typically we had, before COVID hit, you know, I think we had 1 or 2 visits from the Foundation for Fair Contracting. You know, they're sort of the organization that monitors whether in fact subcontractors are complying with the state law. It's not something that I've seen any auditor for the school grant process ever look at, but it is good to keep a record. I think that the electronic copies will be fine going forward, because it's mostly a compliance issue. You know, we've looked at the ones that have come in. We know that there isn't an issue with any of the contractors so far, and I don't know that there's any reason to keep piles and piles of paperwork. So again, that's
So Geraldine, we'll spend from Bob and I and Christine, we'll spend a little time with you to make sure
Yeah,
we
probably
have in
go-
central office in a format that makes sense. any files for posterity or for those that follow any of us.
Yeah, we could go through even the way that this shared drive is set up and probably identify the things that are most likely to be needed in the future actively, and then you can maintain the drive forever for all the sort of the record of the progress of the project or something.
I appreciate that, Geraldine. That would be very helpful.
And so can we, on the budget again, I'm not remembering, I don't, did you put a little placeholder for some funds to do the boiler room floor at Rockwell?
I do not. We had originally just paid for, obviously, the study. I can add a line item. I think it was like $65,000 or something. That I have to go back and look at the budget that was developed in association with the report. But I can create another line item here for that.
Because I think I want to earmark some funds for that.
Sure.
I know, I think there were conversations, actually not when I was at the Board of Selectmen meeting, but between John Menti, who was doing a lot of the organizing of this, and Matt and Marty, and they asked about a fee, and John had said something like $7,000. And I'm like, no, I think it's more like 70,000, which is what.
Yeah.
So I think we need to look back and see what they had come up with, and put some kind of a placeholder in there for it.
Okay.
What was decided on the loading dock floor at Johnson?
Are we going to discuss that during change orders, or is that still up in the air?
I missed what that question was referring to.
I think you're talking about the floor, right?
The floor of the
Johnson loading dock floor.
So
Your-
what we asked, we were not going to discuss that tonight because we don't have an alternative price. We had a price to put the epoxy down through the entire length from the loading dock entrance all the way up that corridor to where it intersects with the common corridor by the gym.
Yeah.
And what we asked, so we discussed this at last Thursday's meeting, and the actual need for an enhanced surface. Well, so let me back up. We were talking about epoxy, but in fact, the base contract documents include sealed concrete all the way from the back door to that intersection with the gym, kind of cross corridor. What we talked about with Bob and others at the Thursday meeting is that it's likely that a more enhanced floor surface would be better for the school building from the place where they do actually unload to the kitchen entrance, which is what
Right.
we need the most wear, right? So the need to add the epoxy finish all the way up towards the main corridor probably was excessive. And in fact, the price was high. I'd have to look back and see exactly what that was. So what we asked Joe Collada to go back and provide, a sketch or some direction on where to actually cut off the epoxy. And then we would just continue with what was in the base contract, the sealed concrete for the rest of that corridor. And then we would present that to Rizzo for pricing on just that piece. Let me see, I don't want to waste anybody's
I
time.
think we had a change order for it.
That was last,
PCO 107 for 13,400.
okay, here it is, yeah. All right, so this was the change order to use an epoxy finish on that entire length of corridor. And I think, Joe, refresh my memory, did we think it was about half of the area in order to just go from the loading dock to the kitchen?
Yeah, I would say maybe 60%.
So
I
then,
didn't actually calc it, but it was probably a little bit more than half.
so am I right? Is that revised PCO in your court, or is that supposed to be in Rizzo's court to recalculate? I thought we talked about you doing delineate, putting a line on a sketch of that corridor.
Yeah, I didn't get that to Rizzo, but yeah, it would be basically right past the kitchen door.
So we'd be looking at potentially 8,000 instead of 13,400, something like that.
But that 8,000 is gonna cover, that butts right up to the kitchen.
Right.
Yes.
All the
Go from the
doors.
loading dock door all the way to the kitchen door, essentially. Maybe just a little bit past it to, as Bob was saying, the cart needs to have a slight turning radius to get into the kitchen door.
Right.
Hey, John, that'll be all the area that possible food may be exposed.
Yeah, because I would be surprised if the health department would let you do sealed concrete. I mean, it's gonna have to be in very good shape, that there's no cracks or anything for stuff to get stuck in for cleanliness. Right?
Well, and I think that was part of the discussion was the wear over time on the sealed concrete would require more maintenance in order to maintain
Right.
that condition that the health department's going to want to see. So,
Well, that's what we have at Rockwell currently.
Yeah, there's VCT at Rockwell, and I did get a price for VCT at Johnson. Total with the mitigation is 7,786. If you tested it and found out that it didn't need the mitigation, you could take $3,627 off of that price. But that's what he gave me for pricing to change it to VCT at Johnson.
Was that for the whole area or just to the kitchen door?
That would be for the whole area.
How much was it, Ken?
With the mitigation, it's $7,786. The two prices are, the mitigation is $3,627, and just the VCT, $4,159.
And what's the mitigation that might be needed?
If there's
moisture.
moisture, they have to do a sealer on the floor. Have any problems with their tile down the road?
So they'd have to check a couple spots with a moisture meter or something to make sure?
Yes.
Okay. So Bob, what are you thinking about that?
Yeah, as long as they fill all the holes and cracks of the Johnson School, because there's a few holes and divots in that floor back there. They got to figure that in as well.
So do we want then to have Rizzo put together a change order for this area with the VCT rather than part epoxy, part sealed concrete?
I guess it's up to Laura, right? I mean, on what kind of floor surface she'll agree to.
So is the VCT already in Rockwell?
Yes.
yeah.
Has she been in there yet to do any kind of checking or inspecting?
Yes, she's been through.
Then there's your answer then.
So I think if she's okay with it, then I think it's obviously less expensive. And it should, I mean, if it's spec'd for Rockwell, then it's obviously spec'd to have stuff running over it all the time and it should wear well. I don't know.
It'll be easier to repair. It'll be easy to repair.
True. And what have you had in other loading areas in the kitchen?
VCT.
And you've been running over it for 1 year, 10 years, 50 years?
Yeah, you normally get some cracking around the door frames or the thresholds, but other than that, it holds up.
Okay. So should we have a change order put together for that?
It's okay with me. What do you think, John?
I'm still, what's the difference between the epoxy and VCT fund, cost wise?
Half.
Well, this PCO is to run the epoxy, the entire area that we're now talking about, the VCT, which is 4,000 and 3,000 or 4,200 and 3,600. So 4,200 plus at most 3,600 for the mitigation. So, 7,700 versus the 13,400.
So I think they take the Mackenzie price and have them take out the hallway, right? And let's compare the VCT to the epoxy. Right? Let's get a true number. That Joe's gonna do the drawing, right? He's gonna take the corridor out of it.
Well, we didn't really ask him to do that, but
I could mark something up quick.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it was really just an indication of how far to, what quantity to calculate for the epoxy, what we were talking about before. But now what we're suggesting is that we do VCT for part of that hallway, keep the sealed concrete for the rest of the hallway until you meet the main hallway.
I thought we were looking at VCT everywhere.
That would be my suggestion, just to keep one material. The only reason we were looking at, so this number was for all epoxy. We were only because of price were we thinking, well, we don't really need it in that later part of the corridor. But I think for a lot of reasons, visual and maintenance, having the same material go all the way through that corridor as was planned with the sealed concrete would be, I think, my first choice. So it really is a comparison of the 13.4 against the 7,700. I think.
But John's saying he wants to see a comparison of the part epoxy, part sealed concrete.
Yeah.
So Ken, had you gotten that yet? Or you needed a drawing first, right?
He needs to know where to draw that line.
Yeah, I just need a line on the drawing. Just tell me where, and I can get Mackenzie to change his price.
Okay, so Joe, you can give him something with a few little lines drawn on it.
Yes.
Thank you.
When we were back there, if you saw it, there's at least 2 doorways, Bob, or 3 that already have the epoxy and everything would match back there. Right?
I think it was two doors.
2 doors, yeah.
Yeah.
That go into the main kitchen. So I
Correct.
think that was our point. It would be epoxy throughout the whole back of the loading dock and just not.
Well, just where the food gets introduced
Right.
from the loading dock, that's where
That's
Laura.
there. That's those 2 doors in the loading dock. That's what we looked at that day, right?
Correct.
And Bob, how wide does that cart swing?
I'm not sure. It's, well, like I said, we need a little bit of turning radius with the pallet jack,
Right.
just to make sure we're all staying on the same floor there. We would have to, I mean, if you want me to measure it out, I will, but it's something that Ken will need some exact measurements.
Right. What I'll do is maybe go 3 feet past the kitchen door, and that should cover it.
That'll work. Yeah, that's a good turning radius.
Okay, for our next meeting, we'll have 3 different things to compare and go from there. Yeah,
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
all right, so now we're on to change orders, I believe.
Yes, and I thought that we'll start with the auto plumbing issue. So for the sanitary at Johnson, this is the quote from Auto Plumbing. It is for $16,606. You can see on the quote, they're going to cut the floor, dig up and repair the pipe, remove the Y and remove where the blockage is and install 2 new Ys, refill around the pipe to 6 inches below the finished floor. So they're doing all of the work except for replacing the finished floor.
And that includes no concrete, right? Somebody else has got to come in and do the concrete and somebody else has got to come in and
That's correct.
put floor on.
That's correct.
So, I had a couple questions. I know that they've been out a couple times, Otto, to not only clean that out when it's been blocked up, but they've also put their camera, scope, whatever up there to check things out. And then, as Bob said in the email that we were passing around, they went way past and didn't find any other problems. Has any of that been compared to the scoping that was done back in the beginning? Is that,
Not that I'm aware of. I'm not sure if anybody else has that information. Because I think you had Arco Rooter doing the original And then Otto was brought in just shortly ago with their equipment.
Yeah, I know that I just was thinking about how before we actually started construction, we did some scoping of some lines, and I didn't know if this was part of it or whether that was other, so I'm just thinking, and I guess we'll find out when they dig the floor up. Is this something new, something that's been there?
Well, Otto felt that once he has that Y opened up, he can determine if that actual piece that's in there is old. I mean, it's got some decay on it, but we don't know if that's a piece of an old pipe or if that's a piece of construction debris. It's hard to tell.
Right.
But they still feel pretty confident that once they open it up and grab that piece, because it's large enough or it won't travel any farther down the pipe, so it's going to stay right there. And when just as a point of interest, when they put everything back, they're actually going to reconfigure that Y so the new flow goes a little bit past that connection and joins the pipe a little farther down. So you don't have everything in one T. So that'll be a better flow pattern. So again, tomorrow they'll be there if anybody wants to come ask any questions.
Okay.
Hey, Bob,
Yes, sir.
just a question as far as cleanliness, when they cut the concrete and what have you, are they planning on vacuuming this as it goes? I'm just concerned about dust and what have you.
Yeah, he explained to me that he's going to be tenting it, putting a tent, and he's going to be using a propane saw with exhaust to the outside.
Okay.
Because I can speak from recent experience that cutting concrete makes copious amounts of dust that goes wherever it wants to go, and you can't just wipe it up.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to be camping out on his doorstep, so I'll tell you that's not going to happen this time.
Good, because I cover everything, even the tent, sometimes it gets outside the tent.
Mhm.
I'd cover, remember that somehow either he's doing it or somebody's doing it, covering just everything. Because concrete dust is awful.
Well, I'm assuming it's cut with water though, and they're vacuuming it up. I mean,
Yes, sir.
Oh, good.
Still makes a mess.
Yes, it does.
So,
Better than dry.
yep. So as far as this being a proposal, it is a change order in a way. And is this, the way it's written and documented, is that sufficient? I know it's not reimbursable. So I don't know as it needs to be part of a whole change order. It's not changing the GMP or anything. It's out of contingency. I'm just wanting to make sure that the way it's written is okay.
Do we have the price for the concrete work, or Ken, were you working on that also?
So here's what here's the change order for the replacement flooring. I will say that we're presenting this just for information tonight. It is a combination of almost $4,400 to replace the tile and $2,600 for the concrete. I had sent this back with comment. The quote for the flooring includes 80 tiles. And these tiles are like, well, you can see right here, the tiles themselves are 12 by 24. And we're only digging up 6 feet, a 6 by 6 patch of flooring. So my question about, I have questioned whether this is the correct material amount for the replacement tile in that area. However, I do think that the $2,600 for the concrete, to replace the concrete, while high, is probably acceptable because of the small batch and the fact that they've got to get in there and mix it and set the 6 by 6 patch. So I am not expecting an approval on this replacement flooring because I want to see a better accounting of the material that's needed here and the labor. 30 hours to set a 6 by 6 patch of tile seems a little excessive. So we have sent that back with comment. But just so that you had an idea of what the complete picture might be, it is something less than 7,300 for the flooring, plus the $16,000, 16,600 for the actual plumbing repair.
Right.
Geraldine, I had a question. Is any of this tile in my attic stock that could be used?
Also a good question. I mean, I think that I will make that additional comment on the material count for that flooring replacement. We'll definitely look at that. Because yes, if we have excessive amounts of attic stock called for in that tile, then yes, we would just use the tile that's available to us. All right, PCO 13.
So are they cutting out a 4x4 area or 6x6?
Well,
It's looking more like it could be anywhere from 8x8 to 6x6. It probably is going to depend on, where he makes his cuts, because he's going at a Y in two different directions to the main line.
Because I thought we had been discussing as we were emailing everything around to try to get a input from everyone that it was 4x4.
yes, the original estimate was that it was going to be about 4x4.
But I think that was prior to the plan of joining the pipes a little farther on down the line.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
I think that's where that confusion came in.
So that larger area is going to give you opportunity to do that, and it's going to be a better fix, it sounds like.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
He also pointed out that when you go past this clogged area, you don't see any standing water. But when you bring it back behind this piece, you see standing water. So this fix will repitch it again, so you won't get any standing water at either one of those two T's.
Good. Well, I'm going to make the motion so that way we can continue to discuss. So I'll make a motion that we accept the quote from Otto Plumbing for repairs under the floor, for what they've quoted there, digging up the floor, cutting it, etc. In the amount of $16,606.
I'll second that, Nancy.
That's Roy who's seconding it. So any more questions or discussion? Because we can. I mean, I should have made the motion and then we do the discussion, but we never do things in order.
It's okay.
Yeah, but really ask questions if we need to, because we've got all the people here that need to answer them, and they weren't all on the email when I sent it out. So if we're good, we'll take a vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? Motion carries. And then, as we said, you're working with, Rizzo's going to be working with them to make sure that whatever, because the concrete's not going to get poured right away. So they're going to work on whatever infill that they had talked about in the OAC meeting, building a little, if they need to, some kind of a little platformy sort of thing out of 2x and covering it with.
Yeah, I think that what we talked about is depending on how this work progresses, they may or may not be able to start that infill of the concrete prior to school opening Wednesday. I mean, if all goes well, we should have the concrete down as well on Tuesday, but we'll have to wait and see how it goes.
Okay, good, thanks. Next.
So PCOs, we only have one PCO at each school. I know I circulated a couple of additional PCOs, but we ended up kind of withdrawing them based on comment by the architect and the need for further review. So we just have one at Johnson. This is for all of the ceiling repair work in areas of the building where we had gypboard ceilings and needed to remove access panel holes in order to get up and do the insulation replacement. So, you know, above all the suspended ceiling, it was fine. They took it down, they did the insulation replacement, they put back up the acoustical ceiling. But in restrooms, and I think it was just in restrooms, but there are a number of areas where we actually had to cut into gypboard ceilings and then replace the gypboard and repaint after the insulation was replaced. So this is the cost for acoustics to do the drywall work, and then M&P painting to repaint those ceilings in Johnson. And it is in the amount of $5,859.54. This is PCO 110 for Johnson.
So it also mentions the wood slat ceilings too.
Yeah, that's more of a labor issue. Yes, they had to take down some areas where there were wood slat ceilings and wait for the insulation to go in, put the wood slat back up. So yes.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve that $5,859.54.
Second.
that's Dave Olson seconding. Any more questions, comments on, observations on this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So that carries.
And at Rockwell, on the gym stage, on the gym platform in Rockwell, the drawings omitted the need to install rubber stair nosings on the wood at the stair onto the stage. And so this is a change order for $252.34 to add the nosings that are necessary to finish the floor.
So moved.
Who said so moved?
I did.
Dave.
Oh, Dave Olson. So Dave Olson makes a motion that we approve change order 118 in the amount of $252.34. Gil seconds it. Any other questions on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done. So Geraldine, there were some other change orders that you did mention in your report, but those are the ones you said need to be.
There were. So one was also at Rockwell having to do with the wood floor on the platform. There was the, we thought there was going to be an addition, a need for vented base instead of a plain, rubber or vinyl cove base. But Joe was able to identify in the documents where in fact in the specifications, there was a call for vented base at wood floor. So we withdrew that change order and notified Rizzo that we're going to reject that one because in fact it was in the specs. And the other one that we withdrew was at Johnson, there was an added roof drain pipe that needed a chase enclosure, and the PCO for the actual chase, the drywall and the framing around this pipe has been batting back and forth between, the team and Verdi, and mostly because the costs and the labor time seemed high. And just today, Matt from Rizzo got back to me and said that he actually received a ticket so that they could verify the labor numbers, and it was going to be about half in terms of labor costs, probably about half of what they were asking for actually on the PCO. So we will withdraw that one and recalculate it and submit it at a later date. So
Okay, thanks.
that was those things. So that's all we have for PCOs.
Okay,
You can see on the, I would just say that if anybody's interested on the PCO log, we do have listed out those potential PCOs that might be coming later or that are still in negotiation. So then we just
Can we go
have,
back to the sanitary one, Geraldine, was the concrete approved?
well, I don't know that we can approve a partial PCO, but I don't have an.
What will you
my
do
recommend-
on Tuesday when there's no concrete in the hole?
Well, we would ask you to have them pour concrete and then send us the bill. I mean, I guess it's,
I mean,
yeah.
Ken, you had talked on the OAC meeting about building the floor up any way you needed to cover it if you couldn't get the concrete in. So,
Yeah, I don't have that. I mean, we would have to get the go-ahead to do that. We could do that, yes.
but if you can pour concrete,
That would be the ideal way to do it.
obviously. And Geraldine, you're saying with this change order that the concrete's probably a decent number. So is it, can you?
So, yeah, so I could support the concrete number and probably, and I'm not asking them to revise that. So if in fact the building committee would like to give an authorization to proceed with the concrete, understanding that that part of the change order will be the 2645 plus markup, that might be one way to handle it, or just approve, or yeah, I mean, I guess that's the better way to approve maybe this PCO number under, with just the 2645 plus the 5% markup. How do you want to handle it? I mean, I think it would probably be best not to wait 2 weeks to put concrete in that hole. So, or a week, I guess. By the time they do it next Tuesday, it would be another week before you would have another meeting to approve.
Correct.
So
So,
partial approval to proceed and put a limit on this PCO.
Yeah.
So this way he can get the floor poured.
yes. And so, but you're talking about the amount being the 2645. Were you saying that they're going to have to, it sounds like a lot, but I think they have to mix it in place, correct? And schlep it in there. It's not like they're bringing a little bit of a,
I thought Geraldine was questioning the tile. Not
yeah, she's questioning the tile.
to submit the tile portion out of the PCO.
Right. I'm just asking for clarification on the process of pouring that concrete. They're going to be mixing it in place and pouring it, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, because it's
Okay.
like, they're gonna get 3 inches on that 6x6 piece, right? So,
Right.
yeah.
So then I would make a motion that we approve change order number 114 in an amount not to exceed, let me see. Should we say 2,800? Would that be adding in 5%?
That would cover the concrete, yes.
So in an amount not to exceed $2,800 for concrete only. That
I'll
sounds,
second that.
and does that sound specific enough?
I think it's fine.
All right, so then we're gonna have to either rewrite that change order and have it just be the concrete. Or when you get the new, to separate them because it's gonna take a little while for you to get new pouring numbers, correct?
Yeah, I'll check for the attic stock tomorrow, see what there is and get the tile number checked.
So will I. So,
Yeah, if it can come back to us as one with the not to exceed 2,800 for the concrete and then the floor part, fine. If it has to be two separate ones, we'll do that.
Hey, Nancy,
Yeah, yep.
I got a painful question. Do we have to wait 28 days for this concrete?
Hope not.
No, that's not slab on grade. You'll be.
Wow.
Yeah, it's different, different situation. So Ken is saying it's slab on grade rather than that poured up in the
yeah.
Okay,
metal thingy. It's more structural. I mean, it's structural, but different kind of
Okay.
structure. So I kind of think we won't, but we'll have to make sure.
perfect.
I mean, even though the floor is, the tiles in there and all, you might have to detour some kids around it for a little bit, but
Yeah, we planned on doing that anyway, but I was just wondering.
Yeah, we haven't issued a sketch on this, so I don't think Corey and BTC is weighing in on it, so.
Yeah, no engineer to say don't
So he
step
doesn't
on
have to
it.
sign
Yeah.
off on it.
Okay, so we do have a second from Roy. Any other discussion or questions on this? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Good. So that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up so we could get that done. So we're done with change orders. Now we're on to additional, professional additional services requests. So we, as a commission, but also as our subcommittees are, I think I just lost my Zoom. There it is. Of some stuff we're still going through, some lists we're making, et cetera, some reviews. But we do have, let me see. So for STV DPM, well, we can discuss this, but I'll make a motion and then we'll discuss it. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the proposal amount from STV DPM for additional extended contract services in the amount of, I have to find the amount because it's on a different page. Amount not to exceed $42,834.
Okay.
Dave Olson seconds. So as I said, and we discussed this last meeting, I'm saying amount not to exceed, though it doesn't say it specifically. They're billing on a month, so it becomes an amount not to exceed. Any other questions on this? Comments, etc. We're good to go. All in favor?
Aye.
I see people waving. Good. Any opposed? Okay, so that passes. And then I'll make a motion that we approve the extended contract services agreement or proposal from STV DPM for school in an amount not to exceed $63,000. 63040. Gil seconds. Again, an amount not to exceed because they'll be billing on a monthly basis. And are there any questions or on any of this? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And we're done. So Geraldine, we're gonna need I think it's the Johnson one needs to have some language corrected.
My typo on the Rockwell name, yes, I will do that.
Yes, so I'll need that from you before I can have it signed
Okay.
and dealt with the next.
First
Yeah.
tomorrow. Yep.
And I think if you could I think they're all okay. I think that doesn't have any typos in it.
I think
Just the,
one.
yeah, and then just the Johnson one and then all taken care of.
And
So, yeah, what?
which one was for Johnson, the 63040 or?
Yeah, that's Johnson.
All right, thanks.
Well, for 42, yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thanks.
Even though it says Rockwell in the thing. So continuing to review and go through the other proposals, and we're not going to stop on that. We're going to continue our discussions, et cetera, in the subcommittee. And if anybody else has any other input, we would appreciate that. Just get to us with it. And I'm still doing, Joe Collada, I'm doing some searching for all of those other documents just to make sure that everything's signed properly, filed properly, et cetera. So,
Okay.
I mean, if you find any, you can let me know, but I'm just going to go through some older emails and make sure I've got all those ready to go.
Okay. Would they have come from who other than you?
Right. But so you probably would have, you or Joe Costa or both of you would have emailed them to whoever, because I have one,
Right.
it's not signed. So what I
Okay.
do is I have to go through and make sure, and again, and Geraldine it was perfect when she pointed it out, when we went from having our in-person meetings where we were just handing papers over to each other and then it was getting signed and then handed to the next person, get it signed, and then it went to the town clerk and got filed. You need a signed copy, we need a signed copy.
Right.
A lot of stuff is going back and forth in emails now, which is fine. Everybody seems to be okay with that. Like I scanned and sent you
Yeah.
the extended one, and you're fine with that. That original will go get filed with the town clerk. A few of the others that we did either in the summer or in the fall may have stopped somewhere along the line in the process and not have been completely signed.
Okay,
So
do you
that's
need me to forward you all the PDFs of those, or?
I don't think so, but
Okay.
I will let you know if I do.
All right, very good.
And some of it was in the fall, I was a little bit busy with my job. So I may have missed, like I said, when I have the stuff and yours are good because you already have Joe Costa signing it, when I get it, I just have to have Matt sign it. I okay it, I attach the minutes. That's why these went so quickly. But we've also I've left stuff for Matt to sign, and then I got to check on it and make sure it doesn't go missing and it's not in a pile somewhere. So that's what I need to do. And I know Geraldine has an STV one from summertime that she needs to, I think it was September, that we need to get filed at the town too. So, and I have an IES one that I'm checking into. Not sure. The one I have has a signature missing, but I'm checking to make sure that there isn't a signed copy somewhere that I can get and then file. Just keeping up with the paperwork, because like John Perna said, they come and they audit and they're going to want to see all that stuff. And the town should have that on file too. So Joe, I'll let you know if I can't find some of the stuff, and then you can just forward to me and I'll take care of it. And I think we're ready for invoices. Yes.
Yes, we can start with the Rizzo application for payment.
So I saw some questions going on around that. Is it good to go? Has it been signed and
Yes.
Joe signed it?
Yeah, met Ken yesterday.
Okay, and then there was a question about, I don't know, I got stuck into an email loop. So was there something that changed or?
No, well, no. So the copies that we circulated last Friday are the same as the copy that Joe certified. There were some late breaking invoices from subcontractors, but we just said they need to wait until next time. So.
Okay, got it. I wasn't sure if that was the case or not. So I will make a motion that we approve the application for payment number 23 from Rizzo for Johnson School in the amount of $108,397.24.
Second.
So a second from Dave Olson. Any discussion, question on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? And that one's done. And now we have Rockwell. So I'll make a motion that we approve Rizzo application for payment number 23 for Rockwell School in the amount of $105,170.38.
Second that.
Roy seconds. Any ends? We're all good. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so Ken, did you drop off these or do we have to, what do we have to?
I have not. I have them, so I can drop them off tomorrow morning.
Sure, I won't be there and I know Kathy won't be. But if you could get them to the first selectman's office with whoever's at the front desk, that would be helpful, and then I'll make sure I get them either later tomorrow or on Thursday and sign them and get them to finance.
Okay, will do.
All right, good, thanks. What's next?
Hey,
How about,
Dan, is there any discussion on the feeders, maybe with Ken and Jim on that?
Yeah, that actually, there was an outline about the feeders
Yeah, I know.
that was sent along with the documents, Geraldine. I didn't know whether there was.
Sure. Yeah, we probably should revisit that. So at the last meeting, there was a request from someone on the building committee for Rizzo to put together this timeline, kind of tracking how the negotiations, at least for the Johnson School PCO, evolved. And this is the timeline that was provided by Jim. And I guess it tracks, and I do also have posted there, the two actual PCOs that we got were in that top amount of 222,306. And then also the next PCO that we actually have in hand and presented was the 125,546. So Jim, if you'd like to walk through this timeline one more time, maybe briefly. I know you did last week or last meeting.
Sorry, John, I just stepped out to the men's room. I didn't know you were bringing this one up here. I'm sorry, what had you said?
Yeah. I just, if you want to walk through, just maybe briefly, I know you did it last week, but if you want to just kind of walk the committee through how it evolved at Johnson.
Right, so as you work your way down the sheet, you see their original submission in the 200, and those are, if I'm remembering right, those are the total numbers of the PCO. So you see the 222,000 is where they started with essentially running all of the conduit through the cafeteria area, offices, things like that, kind of parallel to the corridor there. We then had that issue come up where we could eliminate, I forget the number, whether it was 2 or 4 conduits by changing them over to MC cables. So then you see where Ferguson's number drops down to the 168. He had some errors in there. We had done our own estimate. There was some back and forth. He resubmitted that proposal at 125. The work took place. We tracked his time on tickets. We put some values to the tickets, came up to that 90 to 100K estimate in there. Had some conversations with Ferguson. They came back, their number was submitted at 98. Once we took a closer look at the tickets compared to what they had physically done, what we thought they should have been figuring, able to talk their number down. They get down to 78.4, and that's where we had left it off with them at this point. And I have, other than telling them it's being reviewed or discussed, I haven't gotten back to them.
Okay, that's kind of what I was questioning, if you're taking it any farther, at a 70 or 75 number. And I don't know if we discussed.
I know you guys were going to do some legwork. My thoughts on that, Roy, would be, if you're in the high 60s, 68, 69, and then if there's any, they're going to look to split the difference, then that's when you throw in the Rockwell one and you say, okay, something like that.
Right, because I think what the Rockwell was, like 20,000, I think it was?
Yeah, round numbers, 20,000, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not too sure, Nancy, which way do you think we should be going as a committee on this? I mean, I'd like to get some of these things off the desk and get things resolved, but by the same token, I think everyone had some different feelings on this, and I don't want to hold Rizzo up either. They've been working it through, so I'd like to give them some direction.
Right, and I think that as we had discussed last time, that, and as Jim was saying, if we're going to do a little negotiating, we have to be ready to accept when it happens. And I don't know if there's a better time to do that than another. I mean, I would also to get this plus some other things out of the way and not have to be thinking about them all the time, because they're not going to change because the work's already been done.
Right. Yeah, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to push, I'm just trying to give them some direction. I know our committee really hasn't, discussed it any more than what, Jim has given us this review of. So maybe it's worthwhile for us just as a committee to talk it over a little bit.
Yeah, now that we have this timeline, I mean, we
Yep.
have just the money amounts, but having the dates in there and the timeline can be helpful. And, we should look at it and then see if we can move on it soon.
Yeah. Now, hey, Geraldine, did you include some money in your job cost of the cash flow analysis as far as for these feeders?
Yeah,
I'm still carrying, yes, I'm still carrying the 78,400 that we kind of, as we've dropped that number down, I've lowered my number, but I am carrying the 78,400 for this, for Johnson, and I'm still carrying 19,900 in Rockwell.
Okay, good. I appreciate that. So,
and
okay.
if we were to do some kind of, I guess, if you call it negotiating with Ferguson, like what would be the process for doing that? Like, would we have Rizzo approach them and say the town is willing to, or do we get on a Zoom with a few of us and a few of them and Rizzo, or what's the best way to do this?
Yeah, that's what I think we need to discuss, and probably between Jim and ourselves and everyone, kind of just as a separate meeting almost, because I do think we have to have some discussion.
I would think, Nancy, you kind of want a little bit of a buffer. I'm not saying you don't eventually have a meeting with Ferguson, maybe to nail the final number, but as you're talking to them, I would think you want, I can't commit to anything. So all I can do is respond to them. That buys you some time to think. And as opposed to you're kind of on the spot looking to kill it right then and there. I would think the next time back to them, it would be that type of a discussion. And then by all means, if you guys wanted to meet with them directly, that could certainly happen. I would just think you'd want a little bit of a cushion there.
Yeah, I agree, Jim.
All right, so we're looking at, the next kind of contact with Ferguson concerning this would be through Rizzo.
Probably be best.
Yeah. I just trying to get some input on it. It probably sounds like a good idea to do it that way.
Okay. I'm not too sure, Nancy, to kind of move it along. I'm not too sure if we could, either form a subcommittee to come up with a number, with discussions with Jim to see what we could come back with. So we can keep, Rizzo moving along on this.
Yeah, well, we certainly could do that. It could be a different group than
Yep.
that's working on the services. A couple people want to work on that,
and a subcommittee would give me something to go back to them with now, because they're,
Okay.
wherever they get their information from, they're very up to date with, I'll get a call 8 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, Jim. I think we have some pretty good information now. So I think, I think we can make a good decision as far as giving you something to go with.
Okay, so do we want to try to put something together right now, since
Sure.
I get a call at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning? Anybody want to work on this?
I would volunteer, but
That's fine. Anybody want to work on it with Roy? Could have like one other person even. I don't think.
When I look at their original submittal of $222,000, and then through a series of rational valuations of that number, we end up at something like 78. It sort of takes away any credibility that Ferguson might have, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think we just pick a number that's less than 78.4 and say, here, that's it.
Well, I think it has to be within reason too. I think that obviously the original change order, I know it sounds like I'm defending them, but was somewhat before a lot of the work was getting underway. And I think they were making grossly overrated estimates, and the actual, came in a whole lot less than half. So
What's the Rockwell number, 20?
20,
So 20 on top of the 78?
yeah.
Yes.
Four?
Yep. And the Rockwell was just a whole smaller space having to be.
And we haven't worked the Rockwell number at all, John. We kind of focused on this with the thought of being.
Sure. Well, you did an excellent job getting it from 222 down to 78.
Yeah, yep. So can we get like at least one other person to work with Roy and then?
I will.
Who's that, John? Who
John
said that?
Perna.
John
Okay,
Perna.
John. Good. I'll get in touch with you next week, first part of the week, and see if we can discuss
Yeah.
this.
I just need a little notice.
No problem.
On short notice.
And then you guys can make a time to, do a phone call or something with Jim too, to
Yeah.
Yep.
Jim and or Ken, depending on who needs to be involved, and we'll keep moving along.
Sounds good.
All right.
Oh, and just, there is, well, there was, actually, I think it's under last week's meeting minutes or meeting notes. There is a folder here. Oh, I guess what I'm asking is, would it be helpful to have for John and Roy, for you to have a copy of the PCOs that we did receive to accompany this tabulation that that Jim put together? Should I package the information that I do have on these numbers?
And just email them to us. That would be great.
Okay, because I know that we do have a couple of real PCOs, and then I have a package of information that Jim put together for the last meeting that has like copies of the tickets for the, that they could document the actual work that was done. So I'll just package everything that we have to document these items and get it to you and Roy.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thanks, Roy and John and Jim for that. And we can get back into invoices.
Okay.
Carolyn's making notes first. I'm getting invoices.
Yeah, that's good. So there are a handful of invoices from IES. You want to start with those?
Sure, that's what I've got here. I just have to get my okay pen so I can. I have 503.
Yeah.
And by the way, Kathy, I do have the originals here, and I had them in a folder. I'll make a motion that we approve invoice number 15503 from IES, Innovative Engineering Services, for commissioning services for Johnson School in the amount of $807.50.
Second.
Dave Olson seconds. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Oops.
Done. That's okay. You don't have to. So this is also for Johnson. I make a motion that we approve invoice number 15504 from IES for commissioning extra services for Johnson School in the amount of $1,597.05.
Second.
Dave Olson seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Done. Throw another one up there. This is five-
Rockwell Services.
So I make a motion, we approve invoice number 15501 for Rockwell School from IES for commissioning services in the amount of $387.45.
Second.
Dave seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done. And the last one, 502. Make a motion that we approve invoice number 15502 from IES School for extra commissioning services in the amount of $1,598.63.
Second.
Seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Done. Next, we got
STL Johnson.
Sure. And Salco. So I make a motion that we approve invoice number 34997 from Special Testing Laboratories, the amount of $1,020.
I'll second it.
Who was that, Dave Horvath? Somebody, a whole bunch of people said second. Pick one, Kathy.
Good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done. And then the next STL. Make a motion, we approve invoice number 34998 from STL for Rockwell School in the amount of $1,240. All in favor, or I mean, sorry, we need a second.
Second,
Arrow seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're done with STL. The first one was Johnson School. Kathy, just in case I didn't say it. Then we got in Salco, right?
Yep, we're gonna look at, there are 3 here, but one of them, this invoice is for that additional table that Christine was questioning. So we're not gonna look at this one today, and I'm gonna track down and see whether that table was in fact delivered. It was supposed to be delivered in December 16th, but I'm gonna go back and verify that because obviously Allison doesn't have it. So the other 2 invoices are from Inselco. They are, this one is for a
Garbage can.
garbage can in the nurse's office.
Woohoo!
So
We approve invoice number 9229 from Inselco for Johnson School in the amount of $30.17.
Second.
Any big discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Done.
And at Rockwell, it is for the same trash receptacle as well as one sort of lounge chair ottoman piece. And this should close out the Rockwell furniture.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve invoice number 9228 for Rockwell School from Insalco in the amount of $1,366.47.
second that.
Roy seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done. So the invoice number 9227 is the one that, woo.
Yes,
Everybody
so
okay?
don't submit that one. I'll move it to the next meeting, and in the meantime, track down that table.
Okay, so then you got the ones that Kathy received and forwarded from,
Yes, so there were 2 ESC invoices. And they were both billing to 100%, and ESC has not finished their AV work in either school, so we're gonna hold those as well.
so, and then Connecticut Communications and E+, there's a couple that came in, I think today, or maybe,
Okay, I've been, so Connecticut Connecticut Communications, we will present at the next meeting. That is for, well, we'll present at the next meeting, yeah.
right, those, I think they came in like today. So
Yes,
you
at
had,
least I got them today, yeah.
so then, ESC ones you said we're holding because they're not done. And then I
Correct.
got 2 from United Alarm. Are those the ones that, for the network cards, and those are the ones that there's a whole credit back and forth thing that's happening with, but it's got to get checked, I guess.
Well, those, so we can talk about those on Thursday, but those were provided to Rizzo to pay from construction. But
Okay.
we will follow up on that. So,
Okay, if you need copies of it or whatever, let me know. I can either scan, send, or drop them off somewhere or whatever.
got them, yep.
Okay. So that's it for invoices today, correct?
That's correct.
From anybody else about anything else with lovely school projects?
I had one question for Bob Giminero. Have they given IES remote access to both automation systems?
Well, yeah, I believe they did. Yeah, because
Did they?
Rick has called me a couple of times about certain things. Yeah,
Oh, good. Okay, good.
but it still has some limitations to it, though.
On his end.
Well, yeah. I know-
So
Go ahead,
on
Gerald.
yours too.
Yeah.
So the control of all of the HVAC systems that are in use right now, the control of them is still with ESC because commissioning hasn't been completed yet. But both Rick at IES and Bob have the ability to see the same data. They just don't have the control over the settings, but they can see all the data and all the trends and the readings of all the equipment.
That's pretty fair because they're also covered under warranty.
Correct,
They don't
correct.
want
The
anybody
warranty
making
is not
changes
started because the
post-commission.
warranty doesn't start until commissioning is over, and commissioning can't be complete until IES makes their final report. And it's based off of, ESC still being able to tweak parts of the system.
And I know on that actively because that comes up during OAC meetings. So. All right, any other school stuff we have to deal with tonight? Anybody have any questions or issues or comments or additional things? School people, adios. Everyone
Make a
else, stick around. Thank you, everyone. Everybody else got to stick around.
Everyone else gets to hang around.
Now the fun begins.
We're gonna have a beer. Bye, Scott.
Bye, guys.
Hey, Scott.
Cheers. I got water in my beer stein here. Yeah. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's enough of us. Police station. I am going to give you a brief update.
Thermal imaging was pretty,
Yeah, so if you looked at all that, that was interesting. And if you need me to throw stuff up on the screen, I can do that once Kathy's cat gets out of the way. Kathy can make me co-host. I can throw things up on the screen if you need to see any of it. So basically where we are right now is we're having a meeting tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Me and Roy and Marty and Matt and the attorney they hired, and I think the engineering firm, and a couple people from Downs, and whoever else they want to bring. We're doing a, not Zoom, but Google Meets. And we're going to have a discussion. And I'm sure that there'll be some, hopefully we come up with some sort of resolution. Yet I've sent a lot of stuff out over periods of time. I had to resend a few things to Roy because he's not home where all his stuff is. We won't let Roy tell us where he is because we will hate on him for that.
Really.
Hopefully it's warm.
I'm sure it's warmer here,
It's
at
warm.
least.
Yeah, he looks tan. So I'm sure that some things are going to come up with both Hoffman reports, the NCG report, Downs's original sort of plan that they put forth, taking all those reports into consideration, and then the couple of Becht reports. And I've been reviewing some of the reports, and I got kind of stuck in a way on, and I can throw it on the screen if you want to see it. In response to both the original Hoffman report and then CT Masons went out and hired this, whatever they're called, NCG and National Consulting Group. And then Hoffman replied, and then Brian Humes wrote a letter. And in Brian Humes' letter, he, in a couple of different places, and I can resend it to you if you want to do some, at some point, reviewing of it. He's very non-committal about it, but at the same time, he points at a few things that were stated in the different reports. Like he says that the National Consulting Group report, I believe the underlying intent of this report is the contractor's attempt to deflect from previously noted deficiencies and work that was tasked for their remedial actions. So basically he's saying CT Mason's hired NCG to come and say, no, that's not right, do it this way, or they don't have to do as much. And he observed that the observations were made on a sunny day in May. And on a rainy, windy day, he would have had different observations. And he also says, this is Brian Humes, saying that what's been happening is baffling. I'm reading from his letter. And how Downs did that hold the hose on it thing and end up with water coming through within 20 minutes. And he says, one can clearly and definitively conclude that the masonry wall is not constructed as specified. So basically saying that the masons didn't build the wall the way that Brian, specified. I don't know if Becht ever did any sort of testing, specific testing, even though on the block, the actual block itself, even though it was certified that it had an integral water repellent added to it. And Brian also says that he agrees that a post-applied masonry sealer would add to the water repellency, but it shouldn't need it, kind of, sort of.
Right.
Should not be relied on to be the primary water resistant barrier, is what he writes. That's the end of that sentence of that paragraph. And then, but then at the end, he says, put the latex coating on.
Right.
So it's like conflicted in a way. You know, he writes this whole letter and at the end of it says, go ahead and put the elastomeric coating on.
So Nancy, one thing on that, I believe it was actually part of the original specs, though. And I don't know if it's the same product, but I do believe it supposedly was supposed to have a coating on it.
So there are, and I don't know if, I can't remember if it was in the Becht report or not, but there is in the construction document drawings, there's a wall section. Doesn't say it specifically in the specifications, but there's a wall section that shows a layer of sealant.
That's what I thought, there was something going on there.
But it doesn't say in the specification spec this because the mason obviously didn't do it.
Right.
So, that second Becht report with the infrared is showing no problems with the roof because they were wondering if that was an issue, whether it's leaking down through. But knowing that Ryan Patrick stood there with a hose, and after he said 20 minutes, water started streaming through, that's to me deficient either materials and or
not working.
Yeah, the construction procedures or the way it was constructed. So I don't know. I know that Matt Knickerbocker is very adamant about he wants a waterproof structure that's going to last for a long time. And I think we should get that. I'm not sure if Downs, because I think in the letter that Brian Humes or Jeff Anderson on behalf of Downs, he basically said that the way I read it was applying the elastomeric coating would allow Downs to complete the project within the GMP, meaning it would probably come out of some whatever contingency money is left, and they're not going to pay any extra for it, and we shouldn't have to pay any extra for it either. I'm remembering they had quoted us something like $15,000 to put that coating on, and that means we're paying for it. I don't think Downs is going to pay for it. And right now it looks to me like in the Becht reports, nobody's saying that there's this huge giant like arrow pointing at any one person, not at CT Masons, not at Downs, not at Brian Humes. Which is kind of, I think, what the board is
Right.
looking for, but they're not getting that. So I don't know if there's any other input or any other questions you guys might want us to ask tomorrow morning.
Well, I was looking through the IR scans and you could see that some of them, and that's the whole thing. I'm sorry, I didn't really get to read too much into it, but you could see where some of the heat loss was coming through some of them, and then some of them showed up blue as cold, which means no heat loss. So I wish I had more time to look into that, and I'm sorry I didn't, because I'm kind of befuddled on that as to why you have certain pictures where there's this, very orange, bright,
Yeah.
and others are the blue, which.
Right.
Well, the masonry itself is more porous than the block, a hardened block.
No,
So
I know, but it was
masonry
both,
would show through.
but it was on,
more.
it was on block on both so that's what I was kind of confused by, because I was looking at them, thinking like,
Yeah.
Was it
Well,
sun, was it in the shade, or was it just soaked through from inside?
Yeah, and Dave, on that also, I thought it was interesting as far as the infrared also. It seemed to me that it looked like at the very top where the flashing edge was, the first section of it actually looked like the heaviest concentration. And then, as it got farther down, it also, then it broke up into different areas, but it looked kind of interesting that it was right along that top flashing area.
Yeah, because it trickled down and it spread out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there might still be a problem up in that top where it's getting wicked in at the top.
Yeah, that's why I'm not 100%.
So it made me think, like, so if all of those voids in the block were supposed to be filled with those styrofoam thingies
Mhm.
and then filled with concrete filled with
Right,
They were-
rebar and concrete.
and rebar and concrete. So I know some of them say that the striping could be, they spelled steel wrong,
Yeah.
Right,
but steel, so does that mean rebar? And is some of the color differentiation due to some of the block not having the styrofoam insulation?
Well, so that's the whole thing, is because so I do IR scanning every year for all my stuff at work for electrical stuff. And we do, I have an IR gun, so I like to play around with it. The other thing is solar load on the outside. When was the pictures taken? Was there solar load on the outside of that wall and there was not on the other side? There's a bunch of variables. And
it was like six o'clock at night. They took it later in the day, so, I mean,
yeah, but the block will still hold heat.
right, yeah, exactly.
So if it is grout filled with the steel and it was in sunshine for 3 or 4 hours, it will obtain some of that heat and retain it for a while. To what extent, I don't know. I'm not that way. But I just know that it just seemed very odd, especially like Nancy said with the striping, that kind of threw me on some of the things too, is, there was quite noticeable. There was no, it wasn't, I'm trying to think of the word I want to use, but it just wasn't uniformed across. It was broken up.
Yeah, but the seepage is coming from a porous, accepting moisture and sucking it through into the building. So the material is probably not as dense as the block, and that's probably why. And the only solution that you could think of is to put a sealer coat over the top of it, right? Of something, like a urethane or spray-on sealant.
No, I'm with you on that, Gil. My thing is, so maybe I didn't state this probably. My thing is there moisture in the block where it's cooler as opposed to where it's showing a brighter orange? So is there water wicking down through the block, cooling the block, as opposed to the other part where it's the lighter yellow orangish where it's pushing heat through? Or is it the other way around? Is it
both?
The other block is
summertime and winter.
So it's not exuding, it's not letting the heat out, and yet the other block is letting the heat. There's a lot of variables. That's the problem.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
So like to me, that's pretty uniform. You can see some, some kind of pattern up and down.
Yep.
Where it's
If-
more heat getting through than others.
Right, but if the heat in there it's not a whole lot of heat.
Right. So that's the thing, right? So look at like it looks, and I'm just going to throw a number out there. Every 4 to 6 feet, you have a vertical line that is
That's,
greater than the rest.
Yeah.
that's steel rebar.
Okay. So then that makes sense if it's in the sun for quite a
Yep.
few hours and it's holding the heat.
Yeah,
would-
that would be, to me, would be the rebars that are top to bottom.
that would-
Right.
that makes complete
Yeah.
total sense to me as well, Gil.
So if you look on the top of that picture, you see where it's all white up on the top, similar to the section, at the very bottom side
Yeah.
there, 1/3 of the way up.
Yep.
It looks like there could be a lot of moisture right on that whole top edge.
Well, they do say in the report that there was a significant amount of moisture noted in the walls,
Right.
which they weren't supposed to have to do the walls. They just thought, well, while we're here, we might as well check it. They did the inside and out, and it does say that, note that the vertical striping is likely indicating structural steel or solid filled block.
So stupid question on my behalf, Nance, scroll down one frame, please. The
Yeah.
back side of the building there, I'm trying to remember, is that facing east or west? That's facing,
Go back on that. I think that was the back where we had the vent hole cut. So
Yeah, so that's where, so they're comparing, so that's where the vent hole is and kind of
That's-
near the,
facing the east, Dave.
all right, so that would be morning sun.
You're
So-
right.
So in the afternoon, you would have no,
Wouldn't have had that. Yeah, it wouldn't have had any concerns there.
okay.
right. And then it's just like each area is different. So this is the corner where it comes up to the valley port on the backside.
Now, let me ask a question. Where that black dot is to the right, are there offices over there? So I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I've been in there.
No, well, so if you see this part here, that's the back and there's the ladder that goes up to the roof. So this faces the high school. And,
Right.
and then this other section right here is the Sally Port, I believe.
Okay. No, I was just thinking internally why it went from the bright orange yellow to the almost like a purpley.
That's kind of where the furnace is, isn't it?
I think it's a
It's
little
little
farther.
bit-
Yeah,
it's-
yeah, it could be.
Yeah. And that's like, woo, yellow.
Yeah, that's like a huge loss of heat.
Yeah.
But I think what they're saying, it's indicate transfer due to moisture. So
Yeah.
is that an indication that they didn't really put the
Right.
foam in there?
Actually, I think that's the same FLIR camera I have. 60.
And then this one's like,
And that's what threw me right there is because
yeah,
you have in between the columns or the rebar, whatever you want to call them, a lot of coolness.
that's,
Right.
yeah, which is kind of crazy because I think it's that same area of the building. It's just the middle of this area of the building.
Right, and that's the inside. So if this is done this is done at 5:46 in the evening.
Right.
There hasn't been sun on that for 5-6 hours easily.
Right.
That's why I was looking at these like, holy Christmas! It's just
It looks like a lot of heat loss, doesn't
if my house looked like that, I'd be really pissed off.
it? I
Yeah.
mean,
So there's the impound lot. So that's
Okay.
the backside where we're going to take a chunk out.
Yep. But now they're attributing this heat loss to wicking with the moisture. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, that's what the
Eight areas
temperature.
indicate thermal transfer due to moisture.
That's a lot of thermal transfer, man.
Yeah, I think they're saying it's showing that it's wet.
Right.
Kind
That
of,
was the
it's
impression I
not
read.
saying that there's it's just showing that there's,
Right. So it's evaporating out, so it's transferring the heat out of the block.
I don't know the answer to this, but applying a sealer coat on this so that it's more or less more waterproof than it is now, would that make it less, you think, or it wouldn't have any impact at all? Because it's a big expense to put a sealer coat on it, and if it doesn't do the job, that would be counterproductive at least.
I would say, Gil, I don't know. I would probably take a section, floor to ceiling, 10, 12 feet wide, and test it and see with the IR gun.
Yeah, that might be called for just to see if it's worthwhile doing that and then what impact it has on the heat loss and waterproofing.
But can you even do that in the wintertime? Well, the stuff's, that's the whole thing is, number one, you have to think about, all right, the block is dirty now, so does it have to be power washed? Will it stick under temperatures of under 50 degrees or whatever, that kind of, will it be a good adhesion?
Yeah.
They
That's a
did
good point.
propose, I think the Downs, I'm not sure if I might be able to put that up. The Downs initial proposal, and then the more recent one states too, that they're going to do some repairs. I think they have to cut out an area and do a control joint where that big crack is.
Right.
They talked about washing it. They talked about doing a test area, like 4x4, 4 foot by 4 foot, to see if it looks okay, and then they'd spray water on it, see. But I think, if the infrared is showing some, I have to say too, they've been harping on the furnace, and that type of furnace with inadequate ventilation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, could be causing moisture problems.
It can, if it's a natural gas, yes, it could.
It is, and I was very specific to point out that it's not making the walls leak. The furnace is not making the walls leak.
Right.
That furnace with inadequate ventilation, et cetera, could be trapping the moisture more or making the moisture not able to escape as it would if the proper furnace, proper ventilation was all happening. However, I think we'd be in worse shape if we weren't heating the space.
Yes.
The other part of it is also, Nancy, on that, which I think we ought to bring up is, we're heating it to, 40 degrees. So it's not like we're keeping this at 75 degrees in there.
Right.
So,
Right. But they keep bringing it up like it could be causing a problem. And
I think we're going to have to address that. We could switch, when we put that in, it was really meant just to get us through a winter type situation. And, a very temporary type setup. The unit is there. If we have to switch it to a high efficiency unit, that can be done also. That could very easily be done. But by the same token, I think what we ought to go with now is just to say, this is just a very temporary situation. It happens to leak all summer long.
Right.
So,
Really?
there's no heat on it at
And
that point.
when we initially saw some of the moisture on the inside walls, there was some supposition and block leaking that the fact that it was unheated could be causing moisture to stay trapped or condensation, moisture to stay trapped inside, et cetera, which is part of our decision, and Downs and Jakunski Humes are all like, we didn't say anything about putting a furnace in. We didn't okay that furnace. So they're like, off the furnace. And Matt and a few others were making it sound like, who the hell put that furnace in there? And we were like, we thought it was a good idea to keep
Don't forget also that the average daily humidity level in the summer is around 55+%. In the winter, your average is around 25 to 30%. So you're drastically lower. So you're a lot less humid in the winter. So for whatever that furnace is putting out, we'll call it break even with summertime. So it's not that. It's not that.
Yeah.
I agree. Probably 80% of the houses and buildings that are out there are not high efficiency units. So, I have a hard time thinking that is the one thing that's setting it over the edge.
I agree with you more. Yeah, look at that. That's interesting. 40, it's like from -8 to probably like 35 degrees where the yellow really starts getting.
I mean, also Nancy too, I mean, we're tempering it so it doesn't freeze up. That's the extent of the heating there.
Yeah, yes,
I think that's what we have to be clear with them, is that all it's doing is to keep the building from freezing. That's it.
yes. Especially when there was, the moisture was first discovered and we were like, well, we got to do something.
Right.
Supposition of it being condensation was, a big thing. Again, we made the decision and we can own it, but at the same time, I think it would be a lot worse if that moisture was still getting in and the building was freezing inside and out.
Right.
Let's take that into consideration. So
Right.
This is the, I think I don't know if I sent this out. I think I did. If I didn't, I'll do it. But it's basically Downs's reply, how they're going to do the control joint, clean the facade, do a mock-up, water test it.
Yep.
Doing some kind of sheet metal trim and some other stuff about that area where the fascia isn't really quite right, and etc. We have no reason to believe, based on the input of the architect, multiple consultants, that the foregoing scope is not a solution that become completed within our GMP. So they're making it sound like it's going to cost more money. That's what I see in that.
Yeah. I didn't know how to take that.
Yeah, it's like this section right here, that's kind of like, saying something. And it's like, does that mean there's going to be a change order? Or, I don't know. So, and then they say furnace is not our job.
Yeah.
The roof was installed. And then the entry roof is the other thing that comes up where.
Right. There was
and they're
issues
saying,
there.
oh, everything was done right. But the photos that Beck took and they suggested what they called invasive testing, meaning take some of it apart, see if it's done properly. I don't think that's been done. But I think we need to make sure that's addressed too when we chat.
Yep.
So what time is this meeting tomorrow?
9.
9 o'clock.
And it's
I think it's a Zoom one.
It's actually Google Meets, I think.
Was it? Let me just check. I thought, because I had an invite from Matt.
Yes. And it's Google Meet. So if you've never done it before, you just click on the link and first of all, you say you're going, and then it's what we use for in the municipal center for department head meetings and stuff.
Would it be okay if you sent me the link to join it?
I don't know. They asked for 2 people from
Oh,
the
okay. That's fine.
commission. So
You could substitute for me if you want.
Well, I'm not going to guarantee I can be there because I have a training thing with my site tomorrow. Things up.
Yeah. So you were going to jump in if you could. So
Yeah.
I think you ought to try to be on, even though I know you'd rather be at the beach.
Yeah, I'm planning it. Okay, so I got both of them. I got a Zoom thing too, and then joining into. Okay, I got a Google Meets. Okay.
I think it's the Google Meets. And
Okay, I got them both here, so whichever one, I'll figure it out.
right. So just a couple other quick things. If you think of anything before tomorrow and you want to email us, let us know. We'll kind of throw it in there. But I think David's points, I'm glad we looked at the infrared photos. I want to ask some questions about that. And then obviously we'll let you know what's going on. If there's any other reports that you didn't get, because I know at one point they weren't giving them to me, and then they were like, here they are, share them. But if you need them resent, let me know. And I had an email from Chris Baldwin today, finally, saying that he's ready to release the CO. But once again, he already had done this, but he's checking with health, planning and zoning, us, just making sure there's no outstanding issues to make sure he can go ahead and do the CO. Because I got an email last week or late last week from Ryan Patrick at Downs saying, can you pay us? Basically, he said, will you consider the application for payment? And I told him that we discuss it at each meeting and we've been waiting to get that CO. That was one thing I did talk about at the Board of Selectmen meeting, how we have this application for payment from Downs for about 175,000, I think it is. And a large chunk of that, like, is got to go to Earth Movers and Ferguson, and their work's done. We owe them money. Pay, you know, we owe Downs money, but Downs owes them the money. Get them paid. Let's once we get the CO, I think we ought to go ahead with it. They were kind of saying, well, if we hang on to it, maybe they'll pay more attention to the firing range, but the firing range is separate. I think we really need to keep it separate. It could be a leverage point, but I really think we shouldn't hold it back. But again, we're not considering it tonight because we don't have that CO.
Yep.
All right. So anything else on the police station anybody needs to know about or has any comments on? So I don't have anything further on the municipal center renovation situation, although I've been asked, because it's budget season, a few times, like, what are the figures on that? And we don't really have figures on it, except for our guesstimates of 650 from, I don't know, a year or so ago. An election of officers. Did everybody get sworn in yet? I know Dino has been reappointed by the Board of Selectmen to stick with us for a little while.
I got to get a hold of Lisa.
Yeah, so she's what she did with everyone else was sent a letter saying, please call me. There's a whole process. I don't know if you all got your letter. You had to
On the phone, you could.
Yeah, I got-
swear on the
yeah.
phone.
So you get
I
sworn
did
in
it
on
last
the
week.
phone. Huh?
I did it last week. I called her.
Yep. So you call her, you get sworn in on the phone. She sends you a sticker. You sign the sticker, send it
I
back.
signed the sticker and I sent it back to her.
Yeah. So Dino will get all that shortly in the mail. And I don't know if you want to like wait till he's done to do the officers and wait till Menti's here. You want to just wait? or- Sure. Okay. Kat's like, I could go to sleep now. So that's it, unless anybody has anything else.
Nothing else, my friend.
Great.
So John and Roy, if you can get together with Jim Delaney somehow on the phone or whatever, and
Yeah, we will next week. Yep.
yeah, dealing with those feeders. And then John, Roy, and Dave and I ought to meet again you got the draft I sent you of some of my comments that on the Rizzo proposal. Some of them can easily be part of the Perkins Eastman one too. But if you can read those and see if you have any comments or questions or
When did you send that, Nancy? I'm sorry.
was like bullets that Geraldine had put together, and they're really good observations.
All right, I'll have to go back and look at your.
On one hand, there's like, where's, like I said, Rizzo's basic, like they were like, it's COVID, it's abatement, it's what about their own responsibility? But at the same time, I think there are some things that were beyond their control that happened, especially with abatement, where it effed up their schedule like nobody could predict.
I'll agree with some of that stuff. I have to go back and look at my emails. I'm looking through it now. I'm trying to, do you remember?
It's really hard. I think Geraldine put a timeline thing together. I'm not sure if I sent that too. It's really hard to kind of isolate, like, yes, this is okay. No, this isn't okay. It's like unraveling a twisted ball of twine.
Yeah, I know.
And I think in some cases, we're going to have to make guesstimates and say, yeah, we'll give you that, but we might not give you that. So.
Oh, it's a notice of claim delay?
So there's a notice of claim delay those are the letters that Rizzo sent to us.
Mhm.
And then I'm pretty sure I can check back. I'm not going to check it now.
Yeah.
Geraldine had made some comments. I took those and pasted them into a thing as a response, 2 separate ones for each school.
Okay. I'll find it.
The abatement is more and if you need it, let me know. I can resend it. The abatement is more Rockwell. There wasn't much in the way of abatement at Johnson. I think there might have been some asbestos and maybe lead paint. I'm not sure.
Right.
Yeah. exactly.
But
I'll clean it up.
in looking at some of that stuff too, you know, and trying to explain it, you know, to both Matt and Marty, when there's additional things that have to be signed, et cetera, they were trying to push blame off on Malone and McBroom for not having a complete enough report before the project started. But again, we as a commission chose not to do that kind of extensive testing inside Rockwell with, you know, great input from John Perna. Once you find it, you got to abate it. You got to get everybody out and you got to abate it. We were making the assumptions it's there, put all that in the documents. And so there was a lot of stuff that was known ahead of time. Yet there are other areas that we just didn't know until they started tearing some stuff apart, found it. Then you knew the red paint, which is why, I don't know why they didn't do the boiler room, but again.
All right,
All right, so thank you, everyone.
very good.
We're good to go. Is everybody, yeah?
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn,
Good,
second,
second,
so moved, everybody in favor? Yeah,
yes.
thank you all.
Talk to
Great
you
evening.
tomorrow.
Yep,
Take care.
take care. We'll see you tomorrow, Roy.